Normally, I would leave my paper flat when I do this, but for the purpose of this demonstration, I have it at a slight angle. So we're going to take some wet color and put it up here. And of course, it does no good to put wet that color, the same color, back in there. And now we're going to mix in wet and wet with this. Now what we get with this, it depends entirely on how it reacts with the other color, on the nature of the pigments. Some pigments will push the other pigments out of the way. You can see that occurring right here. And some will blend in very easily and quickly with it. And let's do another one here. And you can see how it flows right along. It has its own nature. And of course we're going to do this one here. And it achieves a beautiful effect. And of course we can put this color here. Very opaque, heavy pigment. It's going to sit there, and it's not going to do a whole lot of moving around without a lot of water. Let's do the next color here, our primary color. This is the cobalt blue. As you can tell, it's pretty transparent. And you have to put a lot down there to get the demonstration going here. So let me put quite a bit in here. Okay. I'm going to go through and do the same thing. Notice how this has turned almost a brown color. That's because this yellow came over and joined it. Okay, and it makes a difference in how you put the color in on wet on wet. And now we'll put our yellow in here. Let's move it away a little bit and see what happens. And then we're going to put our black in here, which is also transparent. And then we'll put a little bit of white. You know, they have tags and names for all these techniques and stuff. I don't use those. I just let it be what it's going to be. Let's put the primary yellow in here. This works well. This is a nice smooth color. Goes on well. I like the way it feels when I put it on there. And we'll mix a little bit of this color with it. And notice the difference between this and this. It depends on the order in which you put it on there as to how it will respond to the other pigment. You can see the difference. This yellow on this blue is entirely different than this blue on this yellow. Now the lesson for this, what you should take away from this. When you do a painting, you can use all these techniques. You just have to figure out how it works and if you want to use it or not. Now, these pigments that we pick, the basic palette, don't have the characteristics of other paints. And when you put other paints in there, you're going to see a difference in the way they respond to each other. Some of them will be very heavy and will actually push the pigment out of the way. Now let's do this, which is not normally, you don't normally see this, but you notice how the red doesn't want to mix too well with the black here. It sort of wants to not do its thing, and that's because of the nature of the pigment. Let's see how this blue mixes with it. it also equally it's taking the paint out. It doesn't want to mix with that dark paint. The yellow goes in there well, but that's because it's probably very finely ground. And of course, we get our grays by going in with our white. Now let's do the last one, and then we'll wrap this up. And we'll put a band of white down here. And you pretty much, look, they call this tinting, and this is value, darkening the value. You know, I'm not real fond of tags and names. To me, it's just mixing. You can see the difference between red and white here, red and white here. So the order in which you put it down and what you want to achieve is a consideration. Nice blue. Blue and white, blue and white. Yellow. Yellow and white, yellow and white. Very different. And of course our black. Got to put a lot on there, a lot of water. And that's what you have. That's how you can mix on your paper. I do it a lot, as a matter of fact. I mix on the palette sometimes, and then I'll float it in. And they call this floating in colors when you do it wet and wet. They call this glazing, underpainting and all this. And you notice you can see some of the white in here now as it went across. And as it dries, it takes on different qualities than it does when it's wet. Okay, the next thing we're going to discuss is the color wheel and how it treats mixing colors. So that concludes this presentation on mixing on your paper. What you take away from it is whatever you put down first makes a difference on what you mix with it, as I've shown you here. When you do the red and white is entirely different than the red and the white here. Enjoy.